Thank you. Human trafficking for labor and sexual exploitation has been recognized as an issue that requires urgent attention in Southern Africa and Zambia in particular. And internal trafficking of women and children is thought to be common in the country. And poor households, orphans, and street children are particularly vulnerable to being trafficked. You know, there is a story that was reported in the Times of Zambia newspaper of the 6th of December, just last week, where a 16-year-old mother sold to a traditional healer, together with her brother, a 1-month-old baby at 1,500 kwacha, which is equivalent to United States dollars 125. And on top of that, she received a cell phone. This is a 16-year-old child, and you wonder, where are the parents of this child? And where is the man that fathered this child? And then I started thinking, is this girl a perpetrator of human trafficking, or she's also a victim of human trafficking? After Zambia enacted the Anti-Human Trafficking Act in 2008, the government adopted a national policy to combat human trafficking. It also set up an interministerial steering committee and also adopted a multi-annual action plan. But it seems that at some point, the progress slowed down. Now, what has Zambia been doing, especially after the November 2017 summit here at the Vatican? I'll talk about some interventions that the Zambian government has done. And the government has tried to increase its anti-trafficking budget for the second consecutive year to 143,000 kwacha, which is equal to about 14,000 United States dollars. But the increase is only of about 4,000 United States dollars. And you agree with me that this increase really is negligible. But the Zambian government, with support from the International Organization for Migration and other United Nations agencies, in particular the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, UNICEF, and the United Nations High Commission for Refugees and civil society partners, particularly the Save the Children Zambia, has made significant progress in meeting the needs of migrant children, including through the prevention of child immigration detention and detention of children of victims of human trafficking. The International Detention Coalition has also provided support, which covers areas of policy and legislation, systems and procedures, coordination and practical implementation. Actions take into consideration international legal frameworks, including the Child Rights Convention, the Transnational Organized Crime Convention, and its supplementary protocols on trafficking and smuggling. Zambia has also developed national guidelines on the protection of vulnerable migrants, including unaccompanied children and separated children in need of protection. These guidelines are complemented by a national referral mechanism and profiling screening to help with identification and referral to appropriate services. Correct identification referral is an important step in preventing the unnecessary detention of victims, especially those of human trafficking, especially again of migrant children. And the referral process recognizes the roles of various actors and partners at all levels, that is national, provincial, and beyond. And this is the link between law enforcement, that is immigration and police, as well as social services and other protection service providers, to ensure that alternative to detention options are found. And to avoid the detention of migrant children in Zambia, the government, with support from IOM and other partners, strengthened options for self-shelter through making improvements to existing shelters for trafficking victims, such as migrants and unaccompanied children or minors. And significant progress has been made in ensuring that such services are available beyond Lusaka, which is Zambia's capital city, and also for a range of ages for both sexes. And in the past, Zambia experienced great challenges in finding shelter for unaccompanied and separated male migrant children, leading in some cases to their detention. But safe shelters are now being made available for migrants of this category, and such shelters have helped to contribute to the prevention or the detention of about 500 migrant children below the age of 18. The IOM, as well as the Zambian government, again, are supporting the construction of a protective shelter in the country's border district of Sesheke, a town between Zambia and Namibia, to offer a place of safety to vulnerable migrants, particularly women and children. And the shelter will receive, of course, referrals of vulnerable migrants and provide them with much-needed services, including health care, with a view to finding lasting solutions. The Department of Migration, with support from the IOM again, recently updated its standard operating procedures, including specific provisions on avoiding detention of migrant children and other protection considerations, including for victims of human trafficking. The department also introduced standard operating procedures manual, which contains standard procedures to help immigration officers in dealing with issues of mixed migration. The manual outlines a step-by-step process in handling cases relating to human trafficking. And Zambia this year has developed an innovative tool on best interest determination for vulnerable migrant children. This helps to ensure an individualized approach to meeting the needs of unaccompanied and separated migrant children, including victims of trafficking. And the role of best interest determination panels is to identify individualized best interests of each and every migrant child and to help support the provision of comprehensive protective assistance until, of course, a lasting solution is found for them. This often includes family tracing and assisted voluntary return and reintegration to help address the push factors that led them to migrate in an unsafe way in the first instance. And more than 300 migrant children from outside Zambia have been assisted with family tracing and assisted voluntary return registration in recent years. And addressing the needs of victims of human trafficking is now reflected in Zambia's 7th National Development Plan, which was launched on the 21st of June 2017 by our Republican President. And the attainment of the development agenda as espoused in this National Development Plan requires having in place a framework to provide guidance in the implementation process and coordination mechanisms. And in line with this, Zambia has revisited its National Committee and National Secretariat on Mixed Migration and Irregular Migration and Human Trafficking. These bodies support the coordination of expertise and strategic planning on such matters at central level, including advocating for the allocation of resources. Zambia is currently piloting the decentralization of this approach to district level through district development coordination committees, which bring together the same actors, that is immigration police, social services, and correctional services, to ensure a coordinated approach. And Zambia has in place a national action plan to support the work of these committees. And with assistance again from IOM, a countrywide data capturing system has since been rolled out to all the 10 provinces in the major border areas and airports. This system allows for the sorting of data by nationality, age, and gender. And these mechanisms have also included the training of police officers, immigration and correctional services officers. And this is being conducted at district level for district development coordination committees and other partners. And there's also a move to educate the public on trafficking through community outreach and interviews on local radio stations. And the Zambian government and stakeholders recognize that because human trafficking and mixed migration are not only of national or regional concerns, but global, any meaningful awareness intervention targeting these issues require adopting a global perspective for effectiveness, which conforms to the prevailing country conditions. These strategies are being taken by government to deal with transnational human trafficking. But at the national level also, there are other stakeholders that have taken an interest. For example, there is an NGO that is called Dialogue for Development, which is a peace-building program under the Catholic Religious Sisters of Charity, which aims to foster dialogue and reconciliation at local and national levels on issues that promote human rights and integral human development. And they have been undertaking awareness programs, including at secondary schools and primary schools. And the project also being implemented by this NGO is focused on reducing vulnerability of rural children to child trafficking in forms of forced marriages and domestic servitude in villages in Mulanga of Shwangandu district in the Muchinga province of the Republic of Zambia. They have also undertaken trainings and peer training at schools such as Roma Girls Secondary School and Primary School in the district of Lusaka. In concluding, I want to state that the Anti-Human Trafficking Act is yet to be amended, but Zambia has been moved from the Tier 2 watch list to the Tier 2, recognizing the efforts that government is making in combating human trafficking. But I would also want to refer to this major problem that we seem to have in Zambia. Much as we recognize that human trafficking is real and that something needs to be done, you find that there are very few cases that are actually going to court and those that are being prosecuted, as was indicated by my sister here. What is the major problem? Where are we going wrong? And listening to my sisters make presentations, which are very good, I'm saying, you know, as judges, we are really not very involved in cases of human trafficking. I know that we have scored a success with our gender-based violence fast-track courts. But human trafficking cases are not one of those cases that are going to these fast-track courts. And I appreciate that more needs to be done. And what are we going to do as a country? What are we going to do as women judges? I know that as Zambia Association of Women Judges, we have adopted a Center for Survivors of Human Trafficking, which we are currently supporting, and we are also hoping to work with the IOM and other stakeholders in combating human trafficking. You know, we had a case which I referred to last year in November at the summit that was held here of 19 Ethiopians that perished or suffocated on a truck on which they were being smuggled or trafficked from Tanzania through the Nakonda border. They entered northern province of Zambia, went through Luapula province of Zambia, exited onto the Pedico road that connects the Luapula province of Zambia to the Copperbelt province of Zambia. And on this Pedico road, people heard a lot of noises coming from this truck. So the truck was stopped. When it was opened, they found that there were people that were carried in this truck, and 19 of them had suffocated because there was no ventilation. 76 were rescued. Congo DR, where this truck was stopped, said that they could not prosecute anyone for human trafficking or even for smuggling because they didn't know what these people were doing on the truck. And then the Zambian government, despite that this truck was a Zambian registered truck and both drivers were Zambian drivers residing in a town on the Copperbelt in Zambia, said, you know, we have no extraterritorial jurisdiction, so we cannot prosecute. So what happened was the 19 bodies were repatriated to Zambia, including the 76 survivors, and Zambia repatriated the bodies, including the survivors, back to Ethiopia. Within a short time, this group came back. You know, DPP does not know what to do. What offense are we going to charge these people with? They have remained quiet. They cannot disclose who the traffickers are. So you find that we're in a predicament. And this is where we're saying, you know, we are here to pick up best practices. What can we learn from these summits that we can take back home? Why is there reluctance, you know, to prosecute offenders in cases of this nature? This is why we say that, you know, there is a correlation between cases of human trafficking and organized crime. You can even see corruption at certain levels. This is why they fail to prosecute someone when it is clear that this is a case of human trafficking. I thank you all. Thank you.